Why did John the Baptist go out in the desert there? He went out in the desert, first of all, to purify himself of his attachment to things, to get away from the distractions and the busyness of the city, to be alone with God. There in the desert, in isolation, they will be transformed into solitude. Isolation is really loneliness, but solitude is being by yourself when you can listen in a special way to the voice of God. There in the desert, without much water and without vegetation, one realized how important water is. And our quest for water reminds us of our quest for God Himself. And the lack of vegetation also reminds us of the hunger we have for the inner city, or whatever it might be. But that hunger reminds us that we have a hunger for God. Besides going out in the desert for these reasons, John was out in the desert because he belonged to a family both on his mother's side and his father's side of the tribe of Aaron. It was a priestly family, and his destiny was to serve in the temple. However, the temple at that time had corrupt priests, greedy ones who were dishonest, who wanted to become more wealthy than to serve people. So because of that, he went out into the desert, had the people to come there, rather in the temple. Now, in regards to his statement, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight the paths. That had referred to, in a way, the Israelites in captivity, how they escaped from slavery and took the path to the promised land, or the path back to the temple. And so we are called to go out in the desert in our lives, where we can spend time in a way away from the distractions, the busyness of our life, to be with God, to talk to Him during this season of Advent. One of the preparations we can do for Advent is to go to confession, to receive the sacrament of penance. Insofar as we think about our failings, whatever they might be, whether big failings or small, and see how we might be able to overcome those failings. We know that others went out into the desert. We know that Moses went out into the desert for 40 years. We know that Christ spent 40 days in the desert. And it's up to us to find some time away from what we do all the time, all the things that we have to do. This is a very busy season of the year. Let us spend some time with God. So during this Advent, in a special way, it's a time for the gifts of the Holy Spirit, because it says in there that John baptized with water, but Christ would baptize with more than water, with the Holy Spirit. The 7 gifts of the Spirit that help us to give reverence for sacred things, to give reverence for people, for saints, to give reverence to the sacred doctrines of our church, the mysteries of our church, so that we can put them into practice. Indeed, the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit we receive at baptism, once again at confirmation, and each year at the feast of Pentecost, we have an opportunity to Renew the gifts of the Holy Spirit that we have: wisdom, knowledge, counsel, understanding, fortitude, piety, and fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is not a fear of punishment. It's a fear that perhaps we might lose what's so precious to ourselves, the loving kindness of God. That God indeed loves us in a special way. And when we practice the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit, then we are set on fire. We have the Holy Spirit enkindling in us the fire of love that burns away our selfishness so that we can love God and love our neighbor in a deeper way.